And that talk a few months ago, I was listening to an old song. I'm going to age myself, from Dionne Warwick. What the world needs now? Who remembers that song? Right? What are the lyrics? What the world needs now.
No, not just for some.
Not just for some, but for everyone. There's a lot of dharma in that, right? And it's the one thing there isn't enough of. And that's the joy and the promise and the intention and the excitement of a Buddhist practice, a mindfulness practice, that it's a cultivation of a path of love, and a love that is deeper and has quite a different definition than the conditional love that we usually talk about in pop songs, and that's in culture, and we're trained to kind of go after. But like that song, there's just not enough of. And the true wish of the bodhisattva, of enlightened beings, is that the love is for everyone. It's unconditional. I was on retreat twice in the spring, and there was a beautiful poem that one of the teachers read, and I went with a group, and we all came home with this poem. And really, all of us had such a great appreciation of this poem. And it's called Love Like Water, and the poet, one word, Rosemary. That's all I've got. Maybe I can look a little more to see if get the full name. But I will read you the poem, and maybe I'll read it again at the end. And it's kind of the basis of the talk. We could say the pain was a block so great it could not be moved. We could say love did not try to move it. Love simply dissolved the mass and surrounded it, the way water needs a block of salt, breaking apart each ionic bond until every atom of sodium and chloride is surrounded by molecules of water. And in this way, and sooner than you think, the pain was rearranged into minuscule bits, and there was no part of the pain that was not touched by love. The pain was no less, it's true, but mixed with love, dispersed, the pain became something new, something vital that encouraged a different kind of life, a substance that supported buoyancy, a medium to carry me. And this is the experience of the practice. As we practice, that the practice itself encourages a different kind of life. A life that doesn't have such a strong pull of defensive egocentricity, and has a softening of those tendencies. Or me, myself, and I are the center of this universe, ruminating, walking around, viewing life through the lens of it's good for me today, it's not good for me today, it's good for me today. It's kind of normal. To a dropping into the heart, where there's not quite that separating quality, where the compassion, the loving kindness, the equanimity, and the joy opens us to a presence that's a loving presence and that can experience more deeply. So a substance that supported buoyancy, a medium to carry me, is another way to say we develop the qualities of equanimity. We don't get so tipped over by the comings and the goings and the difficulties in life. And that's the path of the practice, which takes time, lots of it, over and over. And that's kind of the good news. So that was the poem that started the talk. And one of the retreats I was on, Matthew Brenslever was teaching, and I loved his comment that our dharma practice prepares our heart to love well. And that he says, we don't practice for the prizes. If we practice for, like, to get something, to get somewhere, to be different, if we're on this self-improvement maze, I'm going to practice so I have this still quiet mind and I love everybody, even the people that annoy me, and I'm elevated, I have wisdom, so if I have wisdom then I can have a better relationship or maybe a better, this is the way we lose in the practice. The Dharma really makes no promises about people, places, and things. But what it does, and these are his words, it helps us, create the conditions of beautiful accidents and lovely coincidences. And that what we're learning in the Dharma is a depth of wisdom, non-harming ethics, concentration, all the things that lead to what we say nibbana, or awakening, or liberating factor, where the happiness is not from conditions. It's not from things going right, or going our way, or getting what we want. I kind of like to call it a quiet happiness. It's probably not accurate. But that quiet happiness is a joy from within that is beyond a condition. The day did not have to go my way, or people didn't have to go the way I wanted them to go, or things didn't have to turn out in just this way. The happiness and the joy is that liberating factor. It comes not from so much a condition, but from a still place within, from the wisdom, from the ethics, from the concentration, from meditation, from good friendship and the spiritual community. It comes from something other than me wanting it to be the way I think it needs to be. So having said all of that, and one of the things that Matthew said is, he labeled this happiness as an unshakable well-being. And if any of you have had in your practice that joy for no reason, just this calm, abiding ease without a condition, is an unshakable well-being, a sweetness, even though it's not going my way. He says that he also thinks that we're not just practicing for nibbana, awakening, this freedom, as the Buddha promised, but in this day and age, we're practicing to love more deeply interpersonally because we're social beings and people fill our lives. And there's a promise of relationships not based on getting, wanting, ideas, thinking, but really being with each other in the heart, opening to each other deeply, and the practice of non-harming, of having caring and deep relationships. So I said all that, and like I told you, none of this resonated very much this week, and that was good. And what I think happened this week is what we would call, in Dharma language, I experienced the flood. Have you recently? And I felt no equanimity. I felt completely tipped over in a hot mess of a puddle. This too is the Dharma, right? Is like, oh, you wake up and you see, you go, what happened to this mind? Where did it go? And it was, for me, it was, let me see. I was listening to a Dharma talk, and the title was, and you could hear it on dharmaseed.org, Donald Rothberg's talk, Bringing Our Practice to Current and Difficult Times. And all it took for me to experience a flood was to listen to a little more news this week, and cling to the world that I want rather than the world that is. And so we talk about sometimes when we're trying to practice, this fog rolls in, this gray fog. Did you ever feel it? Like it's a, you're living life, and something hits, greed, hatred, delusion, aversion, these things that we talk about that hinder the practice. And all of a sudden, you can't feel or see. It's like this fog is just set in. Like, who am I? Where am I? What's the practice, right? And that coming back, that returning and coming back, that pivot is part of the practice, right? Off center, back in center. And when I listened to Donald Rothberg's talk, I felt that center come back again. And he talked about the ways in which we can sustain our practice and show up in the world when times are hard. Whether it's because you listen to a little too much news, or things are hard in your life because they're hard. And he listed a bunch of things, and I'm going to share a few with you, but mostly what I did was split myself in two, right? So on this side was the teacher, the meditation teacher from inside LA, and on this side was the student in a gray fog. And we had a talk. And we came up with a few things of what we hold on to in these times. And some of it is from Donald, and some of it is from this split personality, this dialogue. And that's a good thing to do, is, you can go home and talk to these parts, right? And see what comes up for you. And one of the things he talked about as important, maintain your vision and live it. Don't lose your vision. So when the world and people are not behaving in the ways we would like, we have the practice to lean into, which is non-harming, loving kindness, right? Compassion, joy, and equanimity. And we can rest on that. So we lean into and value and hold and not let go. I think this is a case of healthy clinging to wisdom, right? And there are some things to be clung to, in Buddhism, for a while. So one is knowing what your vision is and living it. And if it's compassion, equanimity, right? Then the actions are that I do what I can do on my side of the tracks to offer loving kindness and care where I can. I can show up where I can. And my heart stays open to non-harming. My heart stays open to care. And the comings and goings of the world, I can keep and maintain that balance. And we can talk a little more about where equanimity comes in. So that was the first thing he talked about in hard times. Hold on to your vision. I would add to the list, commit to something difficult for all of us, even though I must say, sitting here at 3 o'clock, it was delicious to sit in silence. It was really lovely. But recommit to the meditation practice and invite your friends. Rick Hansen says, meditation is to the mind as aerobic exercise is to the body, and reminds us that this decreases the stress-related cortisol, helps us with autoimmune and inflammation, depression, anxiety, stress. So grab your friends and sit. Coming back to the idea of the practice as opening to a deeper love. The meditation is really part of that deeper love. I think that as we sit and practice, and we learn that non-judgmental way, where we're not judging the mind, because minds chatter and minds talk and minds get busy, but we're learning to sit in the stillness, and as the mind calms and gets still and slows down beyond the ruminating and the thoughts, is a pool of love. Yeah, it's right there. And joy is there too, the Buddha teaches. So this is a resource to cultivate. And I think when times are hard and news is scary and we're challenged, the last thing you want to do is sit still. The last thing. It's the hardest thing, but it's the thing to do. And I wouldn't say this to other groups, but you could say it in a meditation group, because guess what we are? We're a meditation group. It's just a reminder to practice the sit, it's worth it. It's a way to deepen the path and experience of love. So we've got hold your vision. Our Buddhism teaches us in non-harming and the practice of caring deeply. And Donald Rothberg said, attend to numbness and overwhelm, right? That you can turn on the news or deal with difficulty, a condition in life, and very often just to be aware when we're shutting down or we're feeling overwhelmed or we've had enough or alienated. These things are what we call hindrances in some ways. They obscure that clear pond, that clear comprehension. And so we pay attention to them. And he talked about having safe places for group sharing, where you can come and experience and talk about some of these overwhelming feelings. But one of the acronyms that I like to use is PATH. and I'll tell you what that is, around feeling numb or overwhelmed, right? Is the P is for pause, that mindful pause, stop, pause, and just developing that practice, having one place in your home or your office where you stand up, feel your feet, look around you. For me, that's my garden. And you just pause and place your hands on the body or the chest. The nervous system responds to that. And take the temperature, what's happening. The A is to acknowledge it and name it. I feel sadness, disappointment, some grief here. Right? So I acknowledge it, I name it, and the T is take the time to allow it. I'm willing to feel it. I let it in. It's here, just as it is. And it's not without judgment. It's here. I'm human. This hurts. Right? That's part of being human. And then the H is holding on. Well, this is sort of, a little opposite to non-attachment. We let go of needing it to change. We don't grasp at it. We don't need an answer. We allow it to be. Non-attachment, non-doing, trusting. And that's the ground of where equanimity can come in. I accept things as they are. Or I don't accept things as they are, but I accept that. I accept myself not accepting it, right? And so we bring presence to what's here, and we're fully honest and open with it. And with that, with the equanimity comes the compassion for the suffering, ours and others. That helps us become one, to feel one with what is going on. Not separate. I'm with it. I'm with it. And the loving kindness of the heart can hold the suffering. So we tend to numbness, to overwhelm, to the difficulty. You turn towards it, right into it, not dull from it. I think most of us were trained to disassociate from it, or distract off from it, or just leave our bodies, I think, was it Callie that used to say, see if Brad's here, we'll have a conversation. She'd say, my body is in California, but my emotions are in Nevada. And she used to say that a lot in our sits, they're in another state. And in our practice, we welcome open, and we turn right towards that ouch. And when we do it, it has a kind of magic. We can still be in pain, but these beautiful states called the Brahma Viharas, the divine abodes, can come in to support us, to hold us. And this is sort of the visual of the poem. So a couple of things, and Donald and I agree. I'm noticing I've got quite a Donald Rothberg's advice in here with my own, but not quite. He's saying, and this is a little difficult to, but I think it's important, is the Buddha talked about the dukkha, the suffering of the world and the suffering of humans as the struggle with greed, hatred, and delusion. Greed, we're wanting the next thing, trying to fill up outside rather than from within. So that's greed. Hatred or aversion, I don't like this, I don't want that, I don't like you. And this is the trouble with our world, is the other. We make the other the bad guy, the other the problem, we separate out. And delusion is not knowing that we have greed and hatred, we're deluded. And so what Donald talked about that I resonated with is, rather than getting caught in the story of what I don't like in the political world, in the country, maybe and it could just be a condition of the family or something personal, right? To see, rather than tell a story or point my finger, I don't like that politician, I don't like that legislation, I don't like that neighbor, whatever, you can add it in. I don't like that editorial, and it just goes on and on. To come back, take a step back, and look at the lens of the problem, rather than pointing at things. To sit back and look at the world is infused with greed, hatred, and delusion. And as long as it's here, there's suffering and dukkha. So that gives me this chance to look at it internally, where it is for me, my aversion, hatred, my delusion, my greed, right? And to also see it externally and have compassion for how stuck we are without practice. And that's a bit of a freeing up, rather than walk around. If I walk around hating a certain political party or person, but I'm contracted, I have a headache, my jaw is tight, I'm probably grinding my teeth, nothing has changed to help anybody. So we break it down into seeing the dilemma of existence, the conditions upon which we're suffering. And he also talked about the quality of mudita, joy. And typically, we talk about joy as a sympathetic joy. I share in your joy. I'm happy for your joy. I'm thrilled that you are happy. But it's also joy. Joy in life, cultivating joy socially in groups, in the Dharma group, cultivating joy through things we love and family, and just appreciating joy through hard times. And he reminded in the group in the talk, and again, I encourage you to listen to it, that during the civil rights movement, there was so much beautiful music and joy and singing, and the tradition of that. I also think about the book with Bishop Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama, where they talk about joy, and you can see videos of them laughing and giggling, and certainly both have had horrible hardship in their lives, political challenge and hardship in every way, and that joy is a kind of resilience. So we get to have, to hold and to incorporate a joy through a hard time. And this helps with equanimity practice, because very often when things are tough, that tough thing becomes global. It becomes our whole mind, our whole vision, our whole field, our whole lives. It becomes us. It's like we got silly putty dumped on us. people remember silly putty? Okay, so some of you do have silly putty. Is it still around? It's around?
Somewhere.
Or somewhere. Okay, so it's like this silly putty, and this is how we lose the equanimity. We tip over because there's globalized aversion or globalized anger, sadness. So all of the Brahma Viharas work together to keep us afloat, buoyant. And then the last one, and I'll stop in a bit, is don't give yourself time to have a don't know mind. Don't know, don't know, don't know. To reflect, to be still, to sit with whatever it is that you are unsure of, whether it's wanting to take some kind of action, wanting to help and support, or supporting ourselves in self-care or practice. Give yourself time to not know and to sit. And he talked about Gandhi before this nonviolent movement took hold in India to get liberation from the British. He was a leader and people were coming to him saying, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And he said for a long while, don't know. I didn't know that. This is what Donald Rothberg said. Mm-hmm. I admit I don't know the story as well as I should. And that he went to the river and sat and meditated and sat and took a good amount of time to just sit with don't know. And that's where he came up with a nonviolent action to take this great walk and start this nonviolent movement for liberating freedom. So I think this is wise, that it's okay to say to yourself, I don't know, and to give yourself stillness, quiet, time to sit through a difficult time. So, if, in honesty, if I were ruler of the world, it would look like Disneyland, and we'd all get free rides with as much food as we want, and everyone would get it. Maybe that would be my vision. I'm being silly, but some of the dharma is opening to the world just as it is, and opening to myself just as I am in this moment today. It's changing all the time. And opening to the conditions that are here, whether I want them to be or not. And if I can open without judgment and quiet that mind, still the mind, and allow that space that's just still, and sit, then these beautiful qualities of mind come to support me wherever it is, wherever I am. So I'll read you the poem as an ending one more time, and then we'll stop there. Love like water. We could say the pain was a block so great it could not be moved. We could say love did not try to move it. Love simply dissolved the mass and surrounded it, the way water meets a block of salt, breaking apart each ionic bond until every atom of sodium and chloride is surrounded by molecules of water. And in this way, and sooner than you think, the pain was rearranged into minuscule bits. And there was no part of the pain that was not touched by love. The pain was no less, it's true, but mixed with love, dispersed, the pain became something new, something vital that encouraged a different kind of life, a substance that supported buoyancy, a medium to carry me. So, we get to have some dialogue. If you'd like to share, I don't know, how do the Zoom people share? Do we? Okay, so Zoom people, or shall I say people with air conditioning, raise your hand if you would like to share or have a question, and we stop at 4:25, and also in the room. Just, yeah.
I have a conspiracy theory.
You do?
Yes. The drug companies own the news companies, so when you watch the news, you need Prozac.
I think that one could be true. Anyone on Zoom like to share? Or in the room? Yes.
I just like the visualization of the poem, because what it did for me is that in order to heal from the trauma that I experienced, to make it, the trauma was the salt, and then the love the water, gave it a great buoyancy, which was really beautiful. And then I just thought about the whole concept of water and salt, and you float in salt water more than you do with, you know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
it was just like, it was a really beautiful way of expressing something, and I've been having very challenging times with rumination around it for the last couple of years, and to now have it be something that's, it was just really very helpful. So I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you. That's a lovely reflection on the poem. Yeah.
Well, it was good that we got to hear the poem twice, because I liked the poem when we first heard it, but then after sitting and then hearing it again, it seemed like more profound. It's like I really heard it, because maybe I was settled and that my monkey mind was a little bit quieter, and I like that idea. I really heard about the water dissolving the salt, and how it really was one, and how the pain and the love were one. That's kind of what I thought of. It's all the same. It's all there. It's always accessible, but I think sometimes I want to separate it, like you mentioned. There's a tendency for me to say sometimes, "Oh, this is a good day or a bad day." And I was on vacation, and I remember thinking, "Oh man, today was a bad day." And then the next day was kind of good, and I go, "I don't want to say that anymore. I just want to say it was a day or something different." So I'm not sure how that came to me, but that's what I thought. It was, I really loved the poem. It was beautiful.
That's actually such an important awareness. That sounds like a casual awareness, right? Like, oh, this wasn't a good day, and this next day, oh, this is a good day, I'm on vacation. But there's such deep wisdom in the breaking through of my mind telling me what's good, what are good conditions, what are bad conditions, and then we develop a whole self. The Buddhists will develop a whole self around that, and that's our sense of me in a bad day, me in a good day. We can enjoy and have joy for a good day. And obviously, when there's a bad day, it's a bad day. There's no getting away from that, right? I just talked about that PATH acronym. But the awareness of, oh, I don't have to label that and define it. That there's just awareness, that we rest in the awareness. That's a pretty liberating factor. That's an important moment. There's just awareness. Awareness that it's changing. The flavor changes. It's all moving. It's all coming and going. So that's a moment of insight.
Hi, I'm Brad with Long Beach Meditation. Your gracious generosity makes this programming possible. If you found this video to be of value, please consider making a donation here. If you'd like to watch more videos like this, click here. And if you want to stay up to date with Long Beach Meditation, click here to subscribe. Thank you.